This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so overall, AMD, you know what? I told you guys yesterday, the prints don't lie. I mean, there's going to be times where we're going to see things get bullied, and it's going to do what it shouldn't do at the moment. But guess what? It's almost always. There's definitely certain case scenarios where I've seen things just never work out the way that they're supposed to. But it is a very, very, very rare occasion that we're going to see something like that. We could see the amount of volume that just went into AMD on this pullback into underneath that 32 level. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you're talking about over millions of shares. Volume kind of coming out of nowhere once we came into this volume dip right here. So we have a ton of prints sitting at that 31, which still need to be satisfied. So I think I don't think statistically what it tells us is we have a lot more room to come back towards that downside before we end up seeing it go up. Now that doesn't mean my price target's going to change whatsoever. I still think 35 and above. It's just a matter of having to come back and satisfy that. Remember, the last thing a market maker wants is a stock to go up too fast. If a stock goes up too fast, they can't buy as many shares, and they have to pay a higher price while they're buying their shares. So they end up bringing them back down, just like we're seeing in AMD. Remember how many people probably went out there with AMD today and went long when they shouldn't have, because we needed a pullback first before statistically the trade would have been a high percentage one. So AMD, well, certainly we're going to be watching. Another one we're most certainly going to be watching is NIO. Now, what a freaking beauty this thing was. There's nothing that makes me happier than a cheap stock that makes a really, really big move. And I know before I started class at 10 o'clock, I kept putting it out there over and over and over again. At 7:20, we just kept getting buying and buying and buying and buying and buying and loading up kind of in this little flag that we had here. And then it popped up right before 10 o'clock, pulled back from the prints that we had at that 8 level. And the only reason it pulled back is because of how much buying came in. 50 cents, another move to the upside, and it just did not stop going. So one thing that we do know is we have a ton of buying that's still up here. I would have liked to see, if we go back, is it going to let me? Yeah. I would have liked to see more at 950, but we have a whole bunch of prints at 950 that tell us that we're going to expect at least a 50-cent pullback to come into this before we're going to end up seeing it be able to get back up there and break that 950. Now, when 950 came in, someone put a gigantic order up there, and a lot of the time that's a market maker trick. We're going to end up seeing from that pullback, we see it blow past there after it falls back down. Now, the whole thing didn't get executed. Would have loved to see that, but that would have extended our pullback way more. So NIO, probably one of my favorites this afternoon, especially because we just keep getting that buying. Look for that trigger up, and then hopefully we don't get too much more buying at 950 and we end up just blowing past it. And then PBTL. Pritesh had called this out this morning, and it's not the best stock, but it's a pretty smooth trading stock, especially for how thin the orders actually are. We can see we had a print that came in at 23, and remember, the thinner the orders, the less of these bigger prints that we're going to end up seeing. I don't mind the selling. Okay, what I'm worried, what I care about is new buying coming in, and we are getting new buying at that 23 level. So we should certainly see a pretty decent move in here. It's not going to be huge, okay, but getting back up to this double top right here, double top-ish, or high sitting there being 23.95, didn't actually get to the 24 level. But getting back towards that 24 should not be too hard for this thing based off that buying. 23 level is a little bit mixed, but like I said, I'm not really concerned as much about the new buying. What I'm concerned about is about the selling. I'm concerned about the new buying, and my biggest concern is that this volume right here, we can see 20,000 shares per minute. It's going to need to pick up. If it doesn't pick up, then you know what? I'm probably not going to do a thing with it, but as long as that volume starts to pick up, like I said, getting back to 24 should not be a big problem whatsoever. AMD is just tanking I swear, it's right as I start a class or a meeting that these things always happen. And then other than that, so let's just take a look at our morning list. So first of all, one thing, TLRY, this thing is just baffling. I mean, it's just nuts. It just won't stop. Getting all the way up to its highs, a little bit over 127, and it showed some pretty decent buying coming up there as well. Now, I ended up going to lunch right about 12, and it was at like 122, and it made another move. And I mean, today it's moved $18.27, which is just unbelievable. It's just crazy. So there's been a lot of trades coming into this, and it's certainly something you do not want to keep your eyes off, especially even for the long. I mean, $18.27. We hope that this happens over a 6-month period sometimes with certain stocks. So keep your eyes on TLRY. I know we're going to be keeping that on our list for this afternoon. And that's pretty much it. I looked at the scanner before, and I just wasn't really happy with any of the newer stuff that we had. NIL, we've already known about. We've already spoken about. PI, absolute garbage, just consolidation. GNC, don't see any room for this thing to go anywhere. PDD was on our list from this morning. And it made a beautiful move. It just kind of died out, and the volume is just too low right now for me to care about it in this consolidation, unless something were to change. I mean, like I said, beautiful move this morning on great volume, but that's been stuck in the consolidation pretty much since 9:45. So just nothing for us to really be able to do with that unless we see some type of change in personality. And that's pretty much it for our gainers. Now coming over to the losers, we already know about PVTL, and everything else is just kind of garbage. KR it's just not doing anything. Stuck in that consolidation. I would, there's no way I'm going to trade unless something, drastically change. CGC, this is definitely something that we are going to keep on to here, but what I want to see is I want to see some more prints at that 450 level. 450, 4650 level from coming back down in there. It's got beautiful volume. The volume's weaning a little bit, but it's just a very smooth trading stock today. $5.29 overall, which is a wonderful range. So we know the one thing that's a little confusing is that if you look at the puzzle, the average volume itself just really isn't there for how big of a move it's made. So just be careful on that range. But overall, we'll certainly see at least another 50 cents move come out of this. Just make sure that you look for those prints, but it's looking really good. And then that is pretty much it. Kron's having a bad day, but you know what? As we talked about yesterday, it's still stuck in this consolidation. So even though coming back down to that 10, if it holds above 10, I'm still not worried. I mean, eventually this thing is going to come out of its consolidation. When? I don't know. Okay, but I haven't really watched it today too much. But you know what? From that, selling me so from at 11, it's a little bit further than I would have thought it would have been, but you know what? It still showed it had to go down first before up. RENN, absolute garbage, nothing for us to do there. And then BBBY, smooth trading stock today. It's moved $1.31, but I don't see much more room left on this thing for it to be able to do too much more. So we got some pretty decent things for us to look into this afternoon. Let's just hope that we continue with that volume and we continue with that movement. AMD by far is, was probably one of the best, and then NIO is definitely up there with it too, with those prints at 950. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? Nope. All right, so remember, class will begin at 3 p.m. This is level 2, lesson 2, but it's going to be our last class of this week before we start again tomorrow, next week on Tuesday. And I will talk to everyone in the chat, and those of you afterwards, I'll see you in class. Happy trading.